everybody. Joseph Rothschild here, aka MBT, and we are back. I remembered the password. Obviously. I don't know what it is with me and the first half of the month, but I'm just allergic to uploading on this channel. I'd really like to get to 10K on this channel, and we're really, really close. So I figured I would actually, put stuff on it for the next couple of weeks. And it's a good time to be doing so because Clash is now in open beta, and there are a significant number of people playing that I think would prefer some sort of TST adjacent guidance. And there is a new set coming out. Lifestream reveals have started trickling out, and there's a lot to talk about. So for the next couple of weeks as Lifestream comes closer, this variety slot is going to be occupied specifically by a video going over what was revealed this week and if I think it's any good. And let's just begin with the cards that have already been revealed. So the first thing I want to talk about is Dionysus. Dionysus is the second Earth Divine rune, and I'm a big Dionysus guy. I think he's awesome. Unfortunately, at present, it's almost impossible to get a beat on. That's because it says when you cast this Dionysus, you can enchant up to 3 Earths to it. You can disenchant an Earth from this Dionysus in order to target an Elestral and daze it or enrage it until your next turn. At present, we don't know what daze and enrage are. This is cool. Dionysus is all about like revels and getting shit-faced drunk, so these make sense. I think it's that an Elestral that is dazed cannot attack during the next battle phase, and an Elestral that is enraged must attack during the next battle phase. Again, I'm not sure, so that's going to make evaluating a lot of cards with these keywords on them really problematic for now. Let's start with them. We've got Cyprong, Champion of Dionysus, Barabib, Barabog, and Baraboss. So first up on Cyprong, when you normal cast it, you can search your deck for Dionysus and add it to your hand. This is going to be good no matter what, probably. All of the on-theme searchers are pretty much always suspect for play, provided their divine runes are any good, and this one has pretty decent stats to go along with it. This has a bonus effect that says you can target and destroy a 1 or 2 spirit Elestral with 5 or more attack if the Cyprong is dazed, which is crazy because it searches the card that performs the daze function, and then it can pop a card. It's basically an earthquake on legs that also has the capacity to defend. This is why I think dazed is it can't attack that turn, because otherwise you would also get in for one, which seems a little above board. But I think this card is really strong, regardless of what daze is. Barabib is a 3/4 that can perform a Nexus. Its chosen elements are Earth and Water, and when it receives 1 or more Water in a Nexus, you can special send it to Barabog from your hand or deck, a la Anacell. Barabog can expend Water and Earth in order to target an Elestral and daze it until your next turn, and when this Barabog becomes dazed, you can special send it into Baraboss from your hand or deck. Of course, it can target itself. This is also why I'm thinking that dazed doesn't cause the Elestral to be suppressed, because otherwise cards like this would be a templating nightmare. And Baraboss says when it receives 1 or more Earth or Water, you can change it from an Elestral into a Stadium Room with the effect Elestrals that are not Water or Earth enchanted are dazed and get -3/-3. Opponents can't play Stadium Runes, or vice versa. This card is really scary. 3's a lot, and there's not a lot of individual rune removal. I expect some of these Elestrals are going to perform a rune removal function, because at present we really only have like E-Gust and Equilinx, and Equilinx is limited and also performs valuable function in this deck. This is a cool strategy, but unfortunately I think is a little too susceptible to either critter removal or rune removal, because that effect is going to activate in a new chain as a linked effect. I think a world in which this card is playable is going to be a really bad world also. In terms of other Earth Elestrals, we have a couple of Champions of Demeter, Girafflora and Gigaflora. Girafflora lets you target a Demeter or Champ Demeter in your underworld and return it to your hand as long as the Girafflora has the highest defense on the field. And Gigaflora says you can expend an Earth and discard it in order to search for a Champion of Demeter and add it to your hand. You can special cast a 1 Spirit Champion of Demeter from your underworld and give it +3 until the next turn. This is a Rhoda with upside, and I think is going to be valuable for that reason. But again, really hard to evaluate at present, because I think both of these really care if there are good Champions of Demeter, and right now we don't have very many. Sprout here is a Champion of Dionysus and can Nexus an Earth. When you do, you can search your deck for a Champion of Dionysus or a Dionysus's Madness and add it to your hand. That 2/5 puts it in a really good position for a lot of things, but at present I'm a little bearish on this. Lotagon, Champion of Dionysus, is a Dagon, which is about to be very important. You can target and destroy a face-down rune if this Lotagon is enraged. When it's destroyed in battle by an opponent's card effect, you can search your deck for an Ambrosia and add it to your hand. This one's a little hard to get a beat on. Obviously, the point is you want to ascend it over something that's easy to ascend from, maybe a free Earth cast that we might be getting at some point, and then you can enrage it using your Dionysus, which enables you to immediately start popping back row. This seems like a lot of hoops to jump through, to be completely honest. I'm kind of pinging around here, but I want to move to the Frost Elestrals, and we're going to start with the Abominursa, Champion of Kion. So keep in mind at present, any bear Elestral that's any good at all is immediately suspect for play, because Bears is, I think we can say now unequivocally, a good deck. Josh just won a premiere with it, and now it's got enough tops that I feel comfortable saying the Bear version playing Cryolings is probably what you want to be on if you are playing the strategy. That deck has room for additional Bears, so, you know, maybe. This one is a 4-1. It says when it destroys an Elestral in battle, you can Nexus a Frost from your Keyon to it, and when you do, you can special ascend it into a Glaciursa from your hand or deck. Existing Glaciursa is not great, but Glaciursa, Champion of Keyon, just came out and says when it destroys an opponent's Elestral in battle, they have to expend spirits equal to the number of spirits enchanting each Keyon on your field. I don't love these cards. If you want a Bear that when it wins combat wins you the game, we already have it in Ursir. Catarant, Champion of Keyon, does not seem whack. You can foretell for and send a card foretell this way to the Underworld. If you send an Iwoolly this way, you can special send it to an Iwoolly. And Iwoolly, Champion of Keyon, says you can send the top 4 cards from your deck to your Underworld and special cast any number of 1 spirit Frost Elestral sent to your Underworld this way. So these cards telegraph that Blistrix is getting banned. Yep, it's unfortunate. Blistrix is still a quite powerful deck, and these cards are fucking unbelievable for the strategy. There's going to be some questions about like how this works ruling wise with existing cards, but from what I understand, if you flip over a Cedar Sword with Catarant's effect, it's going to trigger. And then like the Iwoolly, I think I probably shouldn't have to tell you this is unbelievable. The Iwoolly mills 4, and if you hit a Snowlet or a Catarant, you get to keep going. Like, I think we are going to see like a fucking Snowlet limit or something. Like, I just can't imagine these being in the same format as existing Blistrix tools. By the way, you are going to hate how these cards interact with seeing both Snowlet and Asprowl. I want to talk about Morfrost Chimera form as well. Again, in terms of cards that are crazy as shit in Blistrix, the Morfrost engine is mostly in there just to enable Morolith, but it also lets you go wide, which is something that the deck otherwise has kind of a problem doing. Chimera form is just unthinkable. This card allows you to discard a Morfrost in order to draw a card. So at present, you are discarding a card off of a Scorpion form in order to sink an opponent's Elestral's defense to 0 and then potentially perform a removal function. That's a good effect. But Chimera form enables you to just get action off the top of your deck. What's more, it's like really good in multiples since it is a Morfrost. So I think there's a pretty good chance that you could play like a Bat, a Scorpion, 3 Chimera, and then 3 Lycan. And then if you draw too many Chimera, you can just start cycling them for better cards. It doesn't even cost you anything. This is a 5. And one more card in the Frost's Ice Age. Disenchant 2 Frost from your field in order to destroy every Elestral that is not Frost enchanted. So this is our first Raigeki style effect. This one's kind of hard to place. Poseidon's Fury strikes me as a card with sort of a similar application, and I mean, that card is... I really still can't tell if that card's good. But this is a really scary card to print in an element that also has powerful beaters like Blistrix and now, of course, the Iwoolly shit. It's not hard to imagine a situation where you, like, overenchant a Keyon, cast an Ice Age. Of course, it costs you, like, 5 spirits, but then you get to dome your opponent for 7. Very scared of these cards in general. Let's do the Solars. So first up, we have Glimbat, Champion of Apollo. Glad we're getting another Glimbat. Old Glimbat was specifically built to counter Sparkit, and then they banned Sparkit. This card can expend a Solar and discard it in order to search for Temple of the Sun. I believe this is the first card that does this. And then Nova Core, which is its Ascension form, can be normal cast for 2 if the Temple of the Sun is enchanted, and when cast, you can destroy an Elestral. Now, this is good enough. Like, I talked up Necrolith for so long, I should let you know, Necrotal as an effect is broken as fuck. This is finally something cool and good to be doing in Solar. Corvishine, Champion of Apollo, says your effects that foretell reveal an additional 3 cards. You can shuffle your deck, then enchant your Apollo with a Solar from your Underworld. That's an additional 3, which means that Cows is tier 0. I don't think this card's great. Sundial, when it destroys an opponent's Celestial in battle, performs the Yatagarasu function. That's scary for sure, but I think probably okay in a format with as much back row interaction as this one, and in a position where if you're not drawing back row, the other stuff in your hand is critters, which probably contest the Sundial. Royal Ottle is a really interesting card. When an opponent declares an attack, you can foretell 3, negate that attack if a Solar Elestral was foretold this way, then add a Solar Elestral foretold this way to your hand. This is a scary-ass card. Like, obviously, every attack is going to be directed directly at the Royal Ottle, which means that you're going to have to hit every single one if you want to keep this guy alive. But if you do, you go, like, +4. I've deliberately waited on talking about a couple of cards until we got through the Foretell cards because there's Foretell shit in other elements. Paparu is an Earth Elestral that says when it deals damage, you can foretell 3 and add an Earth foretold this way to your hand. And when it's enchanted with exactly 1 spirit, it can attack an opponent's spirit deck directly. Funny. Humburst, Champion of Apollo, says when this Humburst is foretold, it counts as a Solar Elestral, and when you foretell, an opponent must send cards from the top of their deck to the Underworld equal to the number of cards foretold +1. Humburst Champion says when it's foretold, you can special set it from your Humburst. If your Apollo is enchanted, you can force an opponent to send the top 4 cards from their deck to the underworld. The Hums are still annoying-ass mill cards, which I don't love because that's just not particularly strong at present. But what I do love is we now have a lot of Elestrals that hop out of the foretell pile. Not only are cards like Corvishine more suspect for play, decks like Cows maybe get better. I don't think this is enough to push it to tiered playability, but I like that they are potentially making this a little more powerful. I would like to see like a rainbow foretell deck. Maybe you can even play the Iwilly. While we're talking about fire, let's knock out the only other fire card, Hellmelt. This card is actually legal now, so I'm not going to tell you if I think it's good or not. I think you can just show up to your locals and find out. Quick detour for Funglo Charged. This is the only Thunder Elestral currently playable. It can be special cast from your hand with 1 Thunder if Thunderstorm Supercell is enchanted, or if you cast Thunderstorm this turn. I don't know if this is good or not, obviously. What the hell is a Thunderstorm Supercell? I will say Thunderstorm, based on what we've seen so far, is going to be eminently playable. Look at how many decks want to keep the Dionysus on board in order to daze their own critters. Look how many decks want to keep the Barabas in the Stadium Rune Zone. I think face-up rune removal is going to be at a premium, and Thunderstorm does what Blizzard don't. So Funglo Charged, I mean, I'd have to see what the rest of the cards are, but at present, I get it. Very few wins as well. Let's just do those real quick. First up, Pelaquarius, Champion of Aphrodite, says you can Nexus a water. When you do, you can special send the receiving Elestral to a water or a wind Elestral in your hand. While this Pelaquarius is enchanted, it also counts as a water Elestral. I don't think this card is particularly good. At present, I just can't really imagine a use case. New Findust PogChamp will tell peeps. First up, this card has 6 defense. Crazy, right? Winds that you use to play runes that are also enchanted cards on your field are treated as Earth as well. When this Findust receives 2 or more Earth, you can special cast a Findust or Hybufin from your hand or deck. I think that means that you can Exaltus Nexus to the Findust, and it will special cast into Hybufin. The Hybufin says your Aeolus's effects can also find Earth Invoke Runes, which will mean something in a little bit, but at present means Aeolus searches Earthquake. When you cast an Earth Rune, you can target up to 3 in your Underworld and return them to your Spirit deck or enchant them to your Aeolus. This effect can only be activated twice each turn. This is really scary shit. Unfortunately, it does require the Findust to be set up to a degree. There aren't a lot of cards that perform the Nexus function in that way. I'm thinking like Exaltus, but like Altar will not cause the Findust to trigger because it needs 2 or more. But the payoff here is you get to spend 2 off your Aeolus to go get Earthquake, cast Earthquake, and then you can cycle back 3 wind for the Aeolus. Like, you just get to go kind of sicko mode. Still, what I'm describing is a situation where you have natty drawn Aeolus, or you've used the Aeolus to find the Findust, which means you're already down on spirits pretty considerably. You also have access to an Exaltus, which can Nexus 2, which means you probably went 5 in on Aeolus, which means that it's going to be very difficult to activate it a 3rd time in order to get the Earthquake unless you natty drew either the Findust or the Exaltus. And if you did that, you're still spending like 7 spirits to get 4 back plus an Earthquake. I don't know. I'm not buying it at present. Lunar Rune Spirit Round. Posthumous, Champion of Artemis, says when a suppressed Elestral is destroyed by your attack or card effect, you can return up to 3 Lunars from your Underworld to your Spirit deck. While Artemis is enchanted, each of your opponent's Elestrals are suppressed. Man, they are really trying to get us to play cards that enable the suppression control strategy. This is... I mean, it's good. It's actually kind of crazy that they made us jump through all these hoops for Majesty, and then they're just printing cards that do functionally the same thing, but they're laughably easy to get out. Bandaloon says you can expend a Lunar in order to target a suppressed 1-Spirit Elestral and take control of it until the next turn. Suppression control gets more and more real every day. Unfortunately, the way it is currently being built with Posthumous means you kind of have to get to your end boss before you can use the utility guys that sit at 1 and 2. Which sucks. And Rise from the Shadows says this Rise from the Shadows can only be played when one of your Elestrals is destroyed by your opponent. Special cast that Elestral from your Underworld using Lunar from your Underworld. Really, really funny to cast things that are not 1 spirit off this. Which brings us to the last suite of cards, the Waters. Oh, I have saved the best for last. So first we have to talk about Aphrodite, new Water Divine Rune. This card says when you cast Aphrodite, you can enchant up to 3 to it. You can disenchant a water in order to search your deck for a card with the same name as a water Elestral on your field and add it to your hand. This is a really weird effect. We'll get this one out of the way real quick. A Cracked, Champion of Poseidon, when cast or receives one or more water with the Poseidon's effect, can block an unoccupied slot in the Elestral row. We already have like a Kashtira, Shangri-Ira effect on the other Cracked. This is not great. But boy, oh boy, is there some crazy shit the Aphrodite cards can do. Let me read you this card, Locagon, Champion of Aphrodite. I understand why this is the cover card of the set. You can special cast a Locagon from your hand with 2 if you did not special cast a Locagon this turn. Like, what you're meant to do is get it out with Aphrodite, and then you use Aphrodite to search a Locagon, then you can free cast a Locagon. But you don't have to free cast the Locagon, Champion of Aphrodite. But since you can cast old Locagon, it'll immediately trigger because you've just returned a water from your Underworld to your Spirit deck, which means you also get to pop a card. That, and you've got a couple of like 5/7 bodies on your side of the field, so you can hit like a truck. This card seems really strong. I mean, I also might be reading it wrong. You might just be able to cast it from your hand. That effect might apply to it while it's in your grip. But I think I've got it right. New Coastalith is also insane. The Dawn of Coastalith has arrived. Coastalith can be normal cast with Water if your Aphrodite is enchanted, and you can discard a water card in order to draw a card, and if the card you discarded was Coastalith, you can draw an additional card. Because your Aphrodite is always going to be enchanted, you can just do that. What's more, water is like the last element that has really fantastic reanimation stuff, and this is like the best card Water Reanimator could ever have. Speaking of, another card that plays well with itself, Caprigal, Champion Aphrodite, says, can't be destroyed in battle by 1 Spirit Elestrals. Great news. And you can expend a water in order to reveal a Caprigal from your hand and target and destroy a face-down rune. Now, it doesn't discard the Caprigal, which means you can just keep doing it every turn. These cards are crazy. It's difficult for me to get a handle on if they're good or not, because they all kind of require either Aphrodite to be in play, or they require you to have natty drawn a double. New Bubloon's weird, too. It just allows you to cheat the enchantment limit. This is a card that's kind of a ticking time bomb, I think. Any individual card that allows you to cheat like a fundamental resource is, I think, quite suspect quite early, and this is one of them. So that's where I'm landing for this first wave. If you asked me to rate them, it would be the Frost stuff way at the top, though there is no fucking way that Blizztrix exists in its current form at the point that these cards are released, followed by the Aphrodite stuff, which I think is really, really promising, and I might just be too in on it because it's totally cute. Followed by the Dazed stuff with an understanding that we don't actually know what Dazed is at present, followed by the rest. Cows tier 0, I guess. Bye-bye.